There's Connie. Can you see us?
I can see you. I can see Cantu. I can see part of Chi. I can see Cotton.
Where?
In the right corner. Right corner of my screen.
Let's see. Hold on. Let's see if we can get it.
There you go.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Hi, officers.
Hello.
Hey, the court clerk.
The
Thor.
court clerk.
Thor. You're
Yes.
Thor and Loki, huh?
What?
You're Thor.
Yeah. We are, oh, I gotta let Arthur in. Hold on.
Is that okay? The angle?
Yeah, it's perfect. Perfect. And the sound is good too.
This is my first time doing this. I'm not familiar with this.
Oh.
I'm not high-tech savvy, okay?
Well, nor am I.
Well, you're better than I am.
No, I forget certain things. Sometimes I forget to mute or unmute or.
So when is this hearing going to go? Is it going to be the first one? We know.
Well, we only have the one hearing.
This one right here today.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
The one for one. Yeah.
Did the Philborn, did she already log in?
No, not yet.
You know, she probably won't even show up.
Muscle milk.
Muscle milk.
What's that?
That won't fit you.
Does it look like I need it?
Hi, Stephanie.
What's that?
Who? Is it Shy? It says Shia, but who are we seeing?
Sure. I'm Christina Filburn.
Oh, okay, Christina Filburn. Okay, thank you.
Kaya is my Hebrew name. Sorry if you could just change
no,
it.
I'm going to rename it. Give me one second. Thank you, Christina.
Okay. Ms. Collins, how are you doing today?
We don't have Miss Collins yet, Judge. We have Christina here. We're waiting on Miss Collins.
Filburn, how are you doing today, Miss Filburn?
I'm doing well, Judge. How are you?
Good. All right. So if you talked to your attorney today?
Yes, I have.
Okay. So she should be logging on shortly then. Okay. Very good. All right.
I hope so. Thank you.
Good deal. And Mr. Bryan, you're going to be representing the state today, sir?
Looks like he's doing something. Mr. Bryan, can you hear us?
Yes, Your Honor. I apologize. My apologies.
No problem. So you're going to be representing the state today, is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, very good. Very good.
Miss Filburn, do I need to contact Stephanie or does she know to log on?
She knows. We spoke about it earlier a bit to prepare, but I'm not quite sure.
All right, bear with me, y'all.
Thank you.
She knows what time we're supposed to start at 1 o'clock.
Miss Collins is logging on as we speak. She had problems with her computer. Miss Collins, can you hear us?
Okay, Ms. Collins, you got your microphone muted, so if you can hear us, you need to unmute your microphone.
She said she can't unmute, but let's. Trying to unmute her. Arthur, can you try to unmute her? It's not letting me. It says,
I asked her to unmute. I know that you have given me share post, but she will have to unmute herself.
Yeah, so Ms. Collins, if you can hear us, basically there's a mute function when you log into Zoom, and you should be able to see it and unmute yourself. On your, it's like a microphone with a slash mark through it. Yeah, I think she's gonna have to unmute herself on there. There should allow her to do that. Yeah.
If she doesn't have the ability to mute, Ms. Collins, you can call in.
Yeah, you need to do route number 2, I think, and that is to call in and do it by telephone. Let's try that. On the email that was sent to you, there's a call-in number with a access code. So try that. Well, now it shows she's connecting to audio. So, okay. while we are waiting for Ms. Collins, perhaps Connie, can you tell me when the motion to suppress was filed by the defendant with the court?
One second.
Okay. Or Mr. Bryan, do you know when the defendant's motion was filed? Because there's not on here normally as required by the Code of Criminal Procedure, there's not a certificate of service showing it was sent to you. So I don't know what date this was filed.
It was filed on the state defense's motion on the, let me make sure I have the correct date, Your Honor, would be January the
Oh, I got it.
10th of January. Your Honor.
January 10th. It was filed January 10th, 2022.
Okay, thank you. All right, so Ms. Collins, you need to dial in and just try by telephone because we can't wait any longer. It's already 1:12, so we got to get the hearing started. So let's abandon this if this isn't working on your end and do it by telephone. So I'm assuming you've got the email, which has the second way to log in, and that is by telephone with an access code. So why don't you try and log in by audio and click out of this one.
So, Your Honor, Ms. Collins can appear, she is left, both video and audio without audio being connected here.
Okay. Let's see if we can get her logged in, at least get her by audio and yeah.
Okay, there we are.
Okay, very good. What happened? What was the magic?
I logged on my cell phone, and this time it gave me an option of allowing Miss Connie to unmute me, and I didn't give me on the other one. And so now
Okay.
that she's allowed to unmute me, she can unmute me. So I think that worked out.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, all right. And before we get started, Connie, on the speeding charge, do you have a cause number on that? Because on my sheet, I don't have a cause number, just for the record, so we have that.
You're muted, Connie.
My apologies. 1935101.
And then the failure to appear, the violation number 2, failure to appear. Do you have a cause number on that, please?
Yes. So that would be 1930. I'm sorry, 195101.
Okay, hang on. Let's start over. 19 what?
Sorry. Okay, so it is, give me 1 second here. I had it all in order. I want to make sure I have these correct. Arthur, don't you have those handy right there?
Yeah, yes, I have more than the failure to appear, Your Honor, for speeding is 1935101B. The FTA or failure to appear for possession of drug paraphernalia is 1930159B.
And then the cause number for the possession of drug paraphernalia?
It is 1930159, Your Honor.
Okay. And there was the second failure to appear on both charges. Do you have those cause numbers?
You may have broken up and I didn't hear your request.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find out. Do you have there's 2 failure to appears. So on each charge, there's a second failure to appear. I'm just trying to get those cause numbers as well.
Yes, Your Honor. They're going to be 1930159C for possession of drug paraphernalia. And
Okay, read that one back. I was on the wrong one. So the second failure to appear on the drug paraphernalia is 1930159C.
yes, Your Honor. But
Okay, all right. So it's
perhaps
just the same cause number, and then it just adds a C to it. Okay.
yes, Your Honor. And perhaps I maybe just for clarity, when you say the second, you're referring to the March 9th possession failure to appear, or the April 6th.
I don't have it. I just have a second and third. I don't have a date on mine. So, all
Okay.
right. So we got all the cause numbers, so that's good.
Yes, Your Honor. And the state
Okay.
has filed a motion to dismiss, which you granted on the cause number for the April 6th failure to appear in designation C for 1930159C and 1935101C.
Okay, so states moved to dismiss the second failure to appear on both cases.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, very good. All right. Then we'll go ahead and get started, and we're recording right now. Is that correct? I believe we are. I see it
Correct.
blinking.
Yes, Judge.
Okay. All right. So this is Liberty. This is Bertram Municipal Court of Record. It is February 8th, 2022 at 1:19 p.m. Bertram Municipal Court of Record, and we're here on a pretrial. This is all of the cases. There are 4 cases that are set today for a pretrial. And this is State versus Christina Angelin Filburn. Cause number, the first one is a speeding charge, 74 in a 55 mile an hour zone, bearing cause number 1935101-A, with a second charge that's related to this, which is a failure to appear, which is cause number 1935101-B. The other charge is a violation of Class C misdemeanor charge, possession of drug paraphernalia, with the cause number 1930159A, and a failure to appear related to that, bearing cause number 1930159B as in boy. So it looks like 4 current charges. Again, speeding charge, possession of drug paraphernalia charge, and each one has a failure to appear. I have before me today, filed by the defendant, it looks like on or about January 10th of 2022, defendant has filed a motion to suppress evidence for cause number 1930159 and cause number 1935101. Now, the 101 is going to be a speeding charge, and the 159 is going to be the possession of drug paraphernalia. So, at this time, is defense ready for trial? I mean, ready for your hearing, pre-trial hearing today? You're muted right now, Ms. Collins.
Yes, Judge.
Okay, very good.
The defense is ready for either, but I think today on the agenda is pretrial.
Pre-trial hearing today. Okay, and Mr. Bryant, state ready for pre-trial hearing?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, we'll proceed. Okay, so Ms. Collins, this is your motion. So tell us why you are requesting that the court suppress the evidence. And I'm assuming, now you've got to file with both cause numbers. Are you trying to suppress evidence in the speeding case or in the possession of drug paraphernalia case?
No, it's basically that my contention is that the speeding resulted in a detention longer than was necessary to effectuate the purpose of the traffic stop. Let
me back up just for purposes of the record, because this is a court of record. Are you moving a motion to suppress evidence on the speeding charge or just on the possession of drug paraphernalia charge?
No, the evidence that was found as a result of the search pursuant to the speeding, but after that the search was resulted in the paraphernalia that the officers alleged they found.
Okay,
so that's what I'm moving to suppress.
Okay, but my question again is, are you asserting a motion to suppress evidence in the speeding case, or are you just asserting the motion to suppress the evidence on the possession of drug paraphernalia case where I'm assuming there were some drugs or drug paraphernalia found? I mean, are we concerned about a motion to suppress for the speeding case?
No, Judge, no.
Okay, all right. So we're here on the motion to suppress for the possession of drug paraphernalia for any paraphernalia or drugs that were found subsequent to the stop for speeding, which I understand what you're saying. Okay, very good. Please proceed.
Well, I guess have the witnesses been sworn in? Are the witnesses present?
Yeah, who are your witnesses? Is it going to be? I'd see we have. Is it Officer Cantu and then Officer Cotton, both, or just
Yeah,
Officer?
Yes,
both
Your Honor.
Okay, gentlemen, if you please raise your right hand, I'll go ahead and swear you in.
The Cotton's over here.
Okay. All right. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give today in this pretrial hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you very much. Both the witnesses have been sworn, and then who are you planning on calling first?
Officer Cantu.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
very good. You may proceed.
I'm sorry, I can't see him. Good afternoon, Officer Cantu.
Yes, ma'am. I'm here.
Okay, great. There you are. Now I can see you.
Yeah, this is me.
Okay. And could you say your name for the record?
Pedro Cantu.
And how are you currently employed?
I'm currently employed with the City of Birch Police Department. I've been here approximately 2.5 years.
Okay. Was this the beginning of your law enforcement career?
Pardon me, ma'am?
Was this the beginning of your law enforcement career? Have you been a police officer anywhere else?
Yes, ma'am. I've been employed previous other agencies.
Okay. So how long have you been a licensed peace officer for the state of Texas?
Approximately 8 years.
Okay. And let me see, make sure I got my dates right. Correct me if I'm wrong, I'm looking at this just to refresh my memory. Did you come into contact with the defendant, Christina Filburn, on the 9th day of August of 2021?
August, repeat that date?
Actually, no, that's not right. I'm sorry. Okay, here you go. Here we go. On sorry, it was September 19th of 2020. Did you have the occasion to come into contact with Miss Filburn?
The only contact I came in with her when my radar detected her vehicle was in motion, exceeding the speed limit.
Okay. And whereabouts did your detector?
Approximately the 1,000 block of Highway East 29 in the city limits of Bertram.
Okay. And about what time was that?
Give or take, right before 5 p.m.
Okay. And what speed did your radar detector say she was going?
74 miles an hour.
And what was the speed limit in
55 miles per hour.
55. Okay. And when you read your radar detector, what did you decide to do at that point?
When I saw the radar indicate 74 miles an hour, I observed a vehicle in motion heading toward me. At that moment, I locked the radar in and I engaged my overhead lights.
Okay. How long did you follow at that point, I guess your lights were on, so you did follow Miss Filburn in her vehicle?
Yes, ma'am.
About how far do you approximate you followed her?
From the initial time that she was speeding, where radar picked her up, to the stop was approximately, I give or take, a mile.
Okay. Do you know about how much time it took for you to both travel that mile?
I would say less than 60 seconds.
Okay. And after that 60 seconds, she did pull over.
Yes, ma'am.
And she used her traffic signal to pull over as required by Texas law, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And had you called for a second unit?
Yes, I called my backup officer who was on patrol at that time, because when I initially turned my overheads on, I looked out my rear view mirror, my side view mirror. The vehicle did apply the brakes because the brake lights did come on. So the person in the vehicle knew that they were apparently speeding at that time, but continued on. Speed limit was 55 miles at that time. The speed limit, I was in town, the speed limit reduced to 50, then it reduces to 45, and she continued westbound on Highway 29. During that time, I exceeded speeds of 80 miles an hour to catch up to her.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I understand. You said earlier, I just want to make sure you were all clear on this. You saw her, your radar detector detected her speed in excess of the speed limit, and you activated your overhead lights. You were going the opposite direction that she was, correct?
Yes.
So you turned around.
Made a U-turn, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then she, at some point, would you say it was relatively soon after you activated your lights and turned around to follow her that she applied her brakes? About how
Objection, Your Honor. As soon as facts not in evidence and defense counsel is testifying, I don't understand that she has asked the court or yourself to treat as a hostile witness either.
Okay, I'll go ahead and overrule the objection. You can answer the question if you can, officer.
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, what I did when I turned my overheads on, I looked outside my driver's side mirror. I saw her brake lights turn on, which indicated she put her foot on the brake pedal. So she then realized, or he, I don't know if it was male or female at the time of the vehicle, realized that they were at fault. But the vehicle continued at a higher rate of speed. And like I said, I reached speeds of 80 miles an hour in order to catch up to her, or catch up to the vehicle.
Okay. But you would still say that wouldn't change your previous testimony that all this took place in about a minute.
Yes, approximately a minute.
Okay. So let me ask this the right way so I don't get anybody confused. Could you see her vehicle the entire time?
Pardon me?
Could you see her vehicle the entire time?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. About how far was the distance between you all at the maximum distance that you were
I
behind
could say
her?
the maximum, I would say 1/8 of a mile, maybe not quite, maybe just a little beyond that, but I had a visual of her the whole time.
Okay. And did you see her apply her brakes again?
Just the one time.
Okay.
Second time the brakes light appeared on is when she pulled over.
Okay. Let's see. But you would agree, or would you say she did anything except, continue on? She didn't.
Well, she had ample time to pull over and stop.
Okay.
The reason I'm
But-
saying it because at that time the speed limit was 55 miles an hour. Then she's going into town, the speed limit changed to 50, then it reduces to 45.
But
I
you would say did you ever detect her speed again?
No, I can't detect her speed because her speed was, my radar detected when she's coming in front of me. But as I was saying, when I was in pursuit of her, I was exceeding speeds of 80 miles an hour to catch up to her.
Okay.
And at that time, like I said, the speed limit already reduced to 50 and to 45.
Okay. And I'm just trying to understand, so you had to get up to 80 miles an hour in the course of a minute to catch up with her?
Objection, Your Honor. Counsel is testifying.
Overruled. She's asking a question. If the officer can answer.
Well, like my speed, I was doing 70, 75, and it reached up to 80, 82 miles an hour. I think 82 is probably the max.
And you testified it was less than a mile, or about a mile. Was that the correct words that you
It
used?
was approximately a mile from the 1,000 block to where she initially stopped is approximately a mile.
Okay. Okay. So she did eventually put on her blinker and pull over to the side, correct?
She did stop, yes.
Okay. And at no point after all of this happened, you didn't charge her with, fleeing
No,
or evading evading arrest in a motor vehicle.
just speeding.
Okay. So, and then, did you say that when you put on your lights and saw that she had, her brake lights activated, that's when you called for the second officer?
During the pursuit, I called to let my backup officer know that I was in pursuit. The vehicle was not slowing down.
And how did you know she wasn't slowing down?
Because at the rate of speed she was going, like I said, she had ample time to pull over. She knew
Okay.
I was behind. She knew I was behind her. When I turned my overheads on, I looked out my side view mirror. The person applied brake pressure on, which caused the rear lights to come on. So that gives me an indication she saw me. She could have stopped, but the person continued to go.
Okay. Do you think would you agree that it's not uncommon for people to not know if they're the vehicle that is the one being asked to pull over by an officer with his lights on?
Objection, Your Honor, calls for speculation.
Based on your training and experience.
With that caveat, I'll allow to answer it.
Repeat the question again.
Based on your training and experience, found that people might have told you in the course of a traffic stop, for example, that they were unsure if they were the vehicle that was being asked to stop?
Well, based on my
And calls
experience,
for hearsay.
I'll overrule. I'm going to give the defense some latitude here, Mr. Bryan, because of this pretrial hearing, but your objections are noted. But at this time, I'm going to let the officer answer the question, sir.
well, at that time, she knew she was at fault. A person knows approximately how fast they're going. 74 miles an hour, 55-mile-an-hour speed zone in town, you know that you're exceeding the speed limit. Like I said, once I turned my overheads on, I looked out my rear view mirror, my side view mirror. I saw the brake lights turn on. I did a U-turn. I was trying to catch up to her. She had ample time to slow down and pull over. The person refused, continued on, went through downtown, went through the traffic light. It did not stop till approximately maybe the 500-600 block of Highway West 29. Based on my experience, when a person does that, one of two things is going on. Either they know they committed a crime, possibly no driver's license, no insurance, or possibility they might have something illegal in the vehicle. That's based on my training and experience.
Okay, we'll come back to that. So she pulled over, and at what point did your backup officer arrive?
Pardon me, ma'am?
At what point did your backup officer arrive? Did you get there at the same time? Did you get there first?
He was on Highway 29 at the time. So I wanted to say maybe 10 seconds, 15 seconds after I made the stop.
Okay. And had you already approached Miss Filburn's vehicle and made contact with her before he got there?
Yes, prior, when I made the stop, I called my stop in to dispatch to inform them my location, description of the vehicle, and the license plate. I did exit my vehicle. I walked toward her vehicle to the passenger side of her car. Explained my name, the reason for the traffic stop. Officer Cotton did arrive. Officer Cotton then in turn, he went to the driver's side of the vehicle for officer safety.
Okay. So who spoke to her first?
I did.
Okay. And remind me again, was Officer Cotton on the scene or arriving when you made contact, when you first spoke to her, or was that before?
You're talking to Officer Cotton or myself?
No, you. I'm sorry, Officer Candy.
You said Officer Cotton.
Oh, no, I said it. Did you speak to her, like your very first words to her, was that before Officer Cotton arrived?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And about how long after that was it before he got there?
Like I said, he was probably there 10 to 15 seconds after I pulled over.
Okay. And so you made the approach first to the passenger side, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you spoke to her through the passenger side window.
Yes, ma'am.
And then what happened next? Officer Cotton arrived?
He did arrive, yes.
And did he approach the vehicle when he got there?
Not on my side. He went to the driver's side for officer safety.
Okay. Okay. Just wanted to see. So y'all didn't you didn't come back and speak to him first before he approached the vehicle. There's nothing like that. He approached at the same time you were up there.
He approached her while I was there, not at the same time.
Okay. And what did you ask her?
Pardon me?
What was your first question? What did you ask her?
Well, I introduced myself. My name is Officer Cantu with the Bertram Police Department, and the reason for the traffic stop, when you were at approximately 1,000 block of Highway East 29, you were exceeding the speed limit. The speed limit was 55 miles an hour, and you were traveling at a speed of 74 miles per hour.
Okay. And did you ask for her driver's license and insurance, I assume?
Just the driver's license.
Okay. And what did you do at that point?
I looked at her driver's license to be sure, just got an idea, look at the picture, I looked at her, just give me an idea, make sure that is her. I explained to her I would be right back.
Okay, and then what did you do at that point?
At that time, Officer Cotton was there, and I spoke with him for a minute, and I explained to him that I think you should run the dog because of the way she acted. She felt she was out of the ordinary. She appeared just a little nervous, and the way she failed to stop gives me an indication she was hiding something, or there's something wrong why she did not stop. It was just an indication that I had.
So you talked to Officer Cotton about this, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And remind me, did you let me see, how did I say this? Had Officer Cotton seen any? We'll just wait on that. Withdrawal. So you were suggested that you conduct a canine sniff of her vehicle.
I felt there was something wrong, okay, out of the ordinary.
Okay, but my question was, were you the one who suggested at first or mentioned, having the dog, having the
Mentioned he could run, if he would consider running the dog.
Okay. And correct me if I'm wrong, but Officer Cotton had a canine unit with him, right?
Yes, his K9 is with him 24/7.
Okay. And were there any other officers on patrol in Bertram at that time? Or was it just you and Officer Cotton out there?
I would have to say it was just him and I on duty at that time.
Okay. It's a small town. That makes,
We're a small force.
Yeah, that's why I asked. So did you do anything else after you suggested to Officer Cotton that you do this, that you conduct these sniff?
I went to my vehicle to run her driver's license.
Okay. And that returned what?
She was eligible, no warrants of any type. And
Did you
I
run criminal history?
issued her a citation. I wrote a citation.
Okay. Did you look at her criminal history by any chance?
No.
Okay. Are any handlebys in the city of Bertram, anything like that?
Pardon me?
Any handlebys in the city of Bertram? Anything additional that dispatch might be able to do?
Rephrase that. What do you mean?
Do you all routinely ask for additional information from dispatch?
No, because what I do, I put the driver's license, I input that information in my computer. If I see any red flags that come up, any alerts, then I will have dispatch go farther into it.
Okay.
There were no alerts, no ma'am.
Okay. So after you read her license and after you issued the citation, you hand her the citation, and then what do you do at that point?
Officer Cotton was speaking to her. I do not know the verbiage, what he was telling her or asking her.
Okay.
He had conversation with her.
Okay. And you hand her the citation, and what did you tell her?
I explained to her she's received a citation for exceeding the speed limit, 74 miles an hour to posted 55 on or about the 1,000 block of Highway East 29 within the city limits of Bertram. I explained to her by signing the citation, it's not admission to guilt. It's just stated she'll call and answer to the charge on before the date that was appeared on the citation. I don't recall the date.
Okay. And then did you basically hand this over to Officer Cotton to do the rest, or what did you do at that point?
At that point, Officer Cotton, from what I recall, he had conversation with her. I recall that he opened the door, she came out of the vehicle, she walked behind her vehicle. I stayed there with her for officer safety. While Officer Cotton Officer Cotton went back to his vehicle, brought out his canine.
Okay.
He walked the canine to her vehicle. I do not know how to read the canine's alert. I'm not canine certified. So I cannot tell you what alert came with the dog. Apparently there was a hit in the vehicle. Officer Cotton put the dog back into the vehicle. We went back to her vehicle and conducted a search.
Okay. And this is my final question before I pass the witness. You conducted a search. You and Officer Cotton conducted a search.
I did not conduct the search.
Okay, so you were present when the search was conducted.
Pardon me?
You were present when the search was conducted.
Yeah, I was there while the search was conducted. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And neither you nor Officer Cotton obtained a search warrant for that vehicle. Is that correct?
I did not obtain a search warrant. No, ma'am.
And as far as you know, Officer Cotton did not either.
Not a search warrant. No, ma'am.
Okay. Pass the witness.
Mr. Bryant? And your microphone's muted, sir.
My apologies, Your Honor.
Okay.
Officer Cantu, you gave testimony that you've been with the Burnett Police Department for approximately 8 years. Is that correct, Officer Cantu?
No, I've been an officer approximately 8 years. I've been with the city of Bertram approximately 2.5 years.
Thank you, Officer Cantu, for that clarification. In your time, in your 2-year time with the city of Bertram, approximately how many traffic stops have you conducted?
I conduct an average about 140, maybe 160 traffic stops per month. As far as citations, my average is around 85 to 90 per month.
And in your time in the statistics that you've just testified to, do you recall how many of those involve possession of drug paraphernalia?
Maybe a handful, 4 or 5.
So would you say that you are familiar enough during your time as an officer with the city of Bertram, in addition to being a licensed peace officer, to recognize behavior of a driver that may be suspect?
Yes.
And what additional training, if any, have you taken to identify behaviors that may be suspect leading to illicit or illegal activity?
Well, I take various classes with Texas Commission on Law Enforcement on traffic stops. I've taken classes on field sobriety, what indicators to look for.
Now, you gave testimony that you or Officer Cotton did not obtain a search warrant. In conducting that stop or conducting the search, was it required that you obtain a search warrant at that time?
No, sir.
And in addition, in conducting the traffic stop and recommending that Officer Cotton conduct a canine walk around initially, did you have probable cause to believe that either illegal or illicit activity was in the vehicle?
Based on the way the traffic stop was initiated, like I said earlier, I felt that there was something wrong there because she had ample time to stop. When she did finally stop, she appeared to be nervous. I did not smell any aroma of any type of drugs. It's just the indicators that she had given me. And based on my experience, I've had stops in the past like that before.
Okay. You gave testimony that you were with the defendant at a time that Officer Cotton was conducting his canine unit walk around. At that time, was the defendant under arrest?
No, she was detained.
She was detained. And what was the purpose of her detainment at the time?
The detainment was there for the officer to conduct his search.
And could you advise that after pulling the defendant over, approximately how long did it take for Officer Cotton to conduct his initial canine walk around?
To conduct the walk around, I would venture to say from the time the dog got out of the vehicle to her vehicle, I might be wrong on this, 10 seconds, maybe 15 seconds. I'm just trying to think back. I can't recall exactly how long.
Is it routine in the city of Bertram and the officers there to request backup during your traffic stops?
Well, we are, based on what's going on in today's world with officer safety, it's recommended to always have a backup officer. Sometimes we do not, sometimes we do not. We are very short on officers, but we have 2 officers working on duty, yes.
And in this particular case, was there a concern for your safety as the reason for having Officer Cotton join you?
Yes, because the vehicle did not stop in a proper manner. I did not know what was going on. Are there illegal drugs in there? I don't know. Is the person running? I don't know. Person committed crime prior to the stop? I have no idea. It's officer safety.
So your basis then for requesting Officer Cotton is not due to an assumption, but rather your training and probable cause related to the defendant's action following your police squad car lights going on to initiate the stop.
Yes, sir.
Is that what you understand? All right, thank you, Officer Cantu. I have no further questions for the witness, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Collins, any follow-up questions for Officer Cantu?
Yes, Judge, I'm sorry. Something popped up on my phone. Now, you, Officer Cantu, you've told us a couple of times that, how would you phrase it? You felt something was wrong with this stop you were attempting because she, in your opinion, did not stop appropriately. She did not stop quick enough.
Well, that's one indicator. Yes, ma'am.
What's the others?
The high rate of speed she was traveling.
Okay. Now, you know, but you didn't feel like what she did as far as these the issues you had with it, you didn't feel like it rose to the level of the offensive fleeing from a peace officer?
Repeat that? Or rephrase it?
You took issue with the way she stopped. You felt like it was an indicator that something might be amiss.
Yes,
but
ma'am.
you did not feel it rose to the level of probable cause to charge her with fleeing a peace officer.
No, because she was not, she continued at a high rate of speed. Okay. There is a difference between fleeing and the way she was traveling.
Okay.
Generally, based on my experience, and I've been on high pursuits, when a person is fleeing from an officer, they are speeding at a high rate of speed. They are in and out of traffic. They'll drive on the median. They will travel on the opposite lane to get away. She did not do that. So
Did not
I
do that.
don't feel she was not fleeing from me in that way.
Okay. So you would say it was quite a bit lower level than someone that you might have probable cause to believe was fleeing you.
I wouldn't say a lower level, but she was fleeing to a point. Okay. For what reason, I have no idea. Now,
Oh, go ahead.
by that indication, I don't know what she's doing. Is the person hiding something? I have no idea. Do they have an illegal weapon? Did they do something wrong? Are they hiding a weapon? I have no idea.
Okay.
I'm saying there's indicators that I came across that I start thinking, what is going on? Why is this person acting this way? That's one of the reasons I call for backup. It's for officer safety.
Okay. And by acting this way, again, I think that you've articulated the fact that her brake lights came on when she potentially saw you, and that she continued at a high rate of speed. And that those are the two things that you feel like were at issue here that raised your level of suspicion. Is that right?
That was one of them. Yes, ma'am. Like I said, the person had ample time to pull over. The person saw me. Like I said, the person realized they were speeding higher than the normal traffic, 74 miles an hour. Okay. When she passed me, like I said, I turned my flashers on, my overheads on. When she passed me, I looked up my side view mirror. Her brake lights came on.
Okay.
That indicated she was good, like she could have pulled over, but she did not pull over. And I don't mean to say it could have been he or she at that time. I did not know who it was.
Okay. But at that point, you're assuming so, but you don't know these things conclusively at that point, do you?
I don't know what's going on. I do not know. No.
Okay.
But
And
I have concern for my safety.
why
would the person continue to speed at a high rate of speed? Speed limits already went down. At that time, speed was already come down to 50 miles an hour and 45 miles an hour. That person was continuing at a high rate of speed. For what reason? I don't know. That's an indicator.
But you would agree that you don't actually know how fast she was going.
No, I do not know, but I know how fast I was going.
Okay.
And that's short of a distance. From the time I did my turnaround, that's 55 miles an hour, at 1,000 block. The speed limit reduces to 50 miles an hour at the 500 block. Okay, when I say block, that would probably be about maybe 2 city blocks. But she continued at a higher rate of speed. The vehicle did.
And
Then the speed limit reduced to 45 miles an hour.
okay. And remind me again, you did testify that this all took place in about a minute, correct?
Approximately.
Okay. And you both traveled Miss Filburn, and you traveled about a mile in that minute?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Approximately. I can't say if it could be less than a mile. I wouldn't say not much more than that. But like I said, I hit speeds of 80 miles an hour. in that short distance.
And did you document that anywhere that you went over 80 miles an hour?
Pardon me?
Did you document that anywhere that you exceeded speeds of 80 miles an hour?
It's on the video.
It shows your speed on the video?
Yes, it does.
Oh,
It shows my speed, the speed I locked her in, and at the time I was in pursuit. It shows how fast I was traveling.
okay. I suppose I am not opening this with a proper program to be able to see all those fancy things. Perhaps, and we might want to, you know, I might need to figure that out for further cases, but I don't see any of that. So, and did you say it locked in the speed that your radar detected as well?
Repeat that?
On the video, I'm sorry, I might have misunderstood. But did you say that it's on the video that what speed your radar
Oh,
detected
traffic
as well?
stop, yes, ma'am. On my
Okay.
radar, on the radar, let me explain on that radar. On the radar, it shows how fast I'm traveling. Vehicles coming in motion. It's picking up the closest vehicle coming toward me. That
Okay.
vehicle's doing 74 miles an hour. I depressed my remote. I locked the speed in. Now it indicates locked 74 miles an hour. Okay. When I did my turnaround, I'm accelerating. It's showing how fast I am traveling.
Okay.
While her speed limit is still locked.
Okay. I'm sorry. You have to explain this to, civilians like me. What is your radar detector is locked to show how fast you're going at that point?
No, my radar is locked at her speed. Her speed will stay locked until I unlock it.
Okay.
I do not unlock it until after the traffic citation been issued and I close it out. Then I unlock it.
Okay.
So my travel speed, she's coming this way. Can you see my hands in motion?
Absolutely.
Okay. Vehicle's coming 74 miles an hour. I depress my remote control. I lock it in. It displays 74 miles an hour.
Okay.
Okay. It showed how fast I was traveling. When I turn around, okay, I don't know how fast she's going away from me. Radar does not indicate that, but it
Okay.
indicates how fast my vehicle is in motion to try to catch up. But her speed limit is still locked at 74.
Okay.
You get that?
So I guess is the radar showing two different things then?
It shows her speed locked, but it shows me how fast I'm traveling.
While you're trying to catch up to her.
Yes.
Okay. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry to have to put you through this. Is that on the same radar that you detected her speed with?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And is that somehow included in your DMAS?
It's in the video. You
Okay.
when you look at when you review the video, you'll get a more understanding.
Well, I've reviewed it. I just don't think I opened it with the correct thing to show all that. Is it like some kind of added feature that comes across in the program, or where does it show that?
That's how it's stalker radar. That's how the screen's programmed.
The screen of what? I'm sorry.
All right, Ms. Collins, I'm going to ask you, are there any relevant questions here? Because we're kind of going off
Yes.
on radar.
Well, I just, I'm sorry. I want to make sure I understand what the officer's trying to say. But I guess
I think he's justified quite a few times under direct and cross that he had to speed up to speeds up to 82 miles an hour to effectuate the traffic stop on Miss Filburn. He said it was approximately a mile from where he clocked the vehicle, and my takeaway was also that it was approximately a minute, 60 seconds. So what else do we have? Because we're kind of beating this one to death.
I hear you, Judge, and I have a habit of doing that, and I'm sorry. But I guess my question was that, I just didn't know how, this was over, 2 years ago, and I wonder how.
Okay, well, if you go ahead and proceed on your questioning, if you've got some questions to wrap up.
And officer, so did you remember that from memory? Do you remember this day going over 82 miles an hour?
Well, I can't go back to exactly how fast she was going on that date. This happened almost 2 years ago.
Sure.
I reviewed the camera, yes, the video footage.
Okay.
It's all there.
I guess I'm just doing it wrong. I'm sorry.
When you open it up, you'll see it.
Okay.
You'll get a better understanding of what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think I just need to figure out how to watch these things better. I think I was just have the wrong program or something. So would you agree that there are a lot of potentially a lot of reasons that do not relate to potential or actual criminal activity that would cause someone to not stop within a minute, continue going possibly at the same speed, possibly faster, possibly slower than when they initially saw a police officer. These things that you cited as the reason that you were suspicious of her, would you agree that there's also lots of reasons one might do that is not related to any sort of criminal activity?
Objection calls for speculation.
Sustained.
Based on your training and experience, have you ever encountered someone who did that, who failed to realize they were being stopped, that was not engaged in criminal activity? I'll rephrase. That failed to stop as quickly as you felt appropriate, as you felt they should have, that was actually not engaged in criminal activity.
Objection, compound question.
Can you rephrase the question? I'll sustain the objection. Let's start over and rephrase your question, please.
Have you made traffic stops for, let's just say, a similar scenario? Have you ever made a traffic stop where you felt that the person did not stop as quickly as they should have in response to your emergency lights, and did not find that they were engaged in any sort of criminal activity?
Well, I've had stops where there's an emergency, they're running to the doctor or they're running to work late.
Okay.
But like I said, based on her stop and how she appeared to me, that's what brought up red flags. Okay.
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 And the appearance, is that the nervousness you were talking about?
Yes.
Okay. Can you describe that a little bit? Like what made you feel like she was nervous?
The way she was talking to me, answering my questions, and she just appeared out of the ordinary.
Okay. What questions did you ask her?
I explained to her, the reason for the traffic stop, and she was just kind of fumbling about it, and why didn't you stop? Why did you continue to go?
And what did she say?
And she really couldn't answer me. I'm trying to think back. It's hard to think back on this, okay? But it's just the indicators that I received from her.
Okay. But at this time, you are not able to articulate that any further?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Do you remember at all? No, never mind. We're not gonna go down there. So just make sure.
So, Ms. Collins, I'm going to start narrowing your time down because this is redirect. If there was anything brought up by the cross-examination, this is the purpose of the redirect, not to reopen the direct examination completely wide open again. So is there something Any other questions that are pertinent to the cross-examination?
Sure. So let me just make sure that I have this one thing I wanted to ask about. Did you suspect anything in particular based on?
And in particular, no, ma'am. No. I just
Okay.
don't know. I don't, like I said, there was indicators. She could have pulled over. She had ample time, the car had ample time to pull over. It exceeded the speed limit. It continued to travel at a high rate of speed, even when the speed limit was lower. Those are indicators.
Okay. But
Indicators
you
are saying to me, by my past experience and my training, there's something going on. Like I explained to you earlier. Are they
Sure.
hiding drugs? I don't know. Do they have weapons? I don't know. Did they commit a crime prior to the stop? I have no idea. There's something wrong in there.
Okay. And when you encountered her, did anything else elevate this to any further reason you might have to believe that there's criminal activity going on?
No.
Okay. Did you notice any signs that she was intoxicated?
No, if I would have conducted a field sobriety test on her.
Okay. And no reason to believe she had just committed a crime, as you stated. And was
I don't
fleeing.
know if she committed a crime. I do not. The only crime she committed at that time was she was exceeding the speed limit.
Okay.
But I don't know what was going on, what she was doing at the time she was
Let
traveling.
me just come right out and say it. You know, I'm just going to come right out and say it. Stop wasting your time. What made you think that this was a good idea, that the dog sniff was appropriate?
Like I told you earlier, I don't know what was going on. Okay. I do not know. Okay. The traffic stop was a legal stop. Okay. And I'm trying to figure out, what are you trying to ask me? Just be point blank and ask me, what are you trying to ask me? You're going around in circles and.
Well, I've asked you several times, and we've been through this. I'm wondering if you really, you said you handed her a citation.
Are you saying I'm incompetent about my job? I didn't know what I was
not at all,
doing.
sir. Not at all.
Okay.
No,
then.
not at all. You would agree with me that you handed her the citation, correct?
Yes.
Speeding. So at that point, the reason for you having pulled her over, which was speeding, you had completed that operation, correct?
The reason for the traffic stop was for the speeding. Yes. Okay.
Okay.
But there's indicators. Why didn't she stop sooner?
Okay.
I
And
don't
you
know.
know
I don't
that-
know the reason why.
Okay.
Like I said, there are plenty of reasons. It could be drugs. It could be alcohol. It could be weapons. The person could have committed a crime. I do not know that. Okay.
Okay.
I'm trying to figure something out. What is going on?
Okay.
And
So
she's continuing to run. I mean, she's going down the road almost a mile, and that was unnecessary because the person knew I was behind her. My lights and my siren is going.
okay. And did you ask her if she knew you were behind her?
She knew I was behind her.
Did you ask her if she knew you were behind her?
Objection, Your Honor, relevance.
Well, it's asked and answered, cumulative, sustained. He already said that, answered the question.
I didn't object that was non-responsive because I said, did he ask her that? And he said she knew. That's not an answer. With all due
Okay,
respect.
I'll
I'm
allow
sorry.
that question. Go ahead with your question.
Did I ask her if she knew I was behind her? No, I
Yes.
did not ask her. I did not ask her.
Okay. Okay. So and at the time you handed her the citation, did she ask if she was free to go?
Did she what?
Did she ask you, am I free to go?
No.
Did you tell her she was not free to go?
No.
Okay. But if she had tried to leave, you wouldn't have let her, right?
If she would have tried to leave?
As far as you were concerned, she was not free to go, correct?
Repeat that again?
After you handed her the citation, did you tell her she was free to go?
No,
Okay. And at that point, you believed you could keep her there to perform the dog sniff, correct?
I felt there was something out of place.
I didn't ask you that.
Okay.
Objection, non-responsive.
Okay,
Go ahead and answer the question if you can, officer.
repeat it one more time.
After you handed their citation, you did not tell her she was free to go, correct?
Yes, ma'am. I did not.
And you kept her there for what purpose?
The reason I kept her there for what purpose?
Why did you not tell her she was free to go after you handed their citation for the reason that you pulled her over for?
Because Officer Cotton was there and I suspected there was something wrong. I didn't know what it was, but I had those indicators.
Okay.
Okay?
And those indicators were not indicators of anything particular wrong, but just something, correct?
Objection, Your Honor, asked and answered. Can we have a sidebar, please, Your Honor?
Yeah, sustained. It's also argumentative, so sustained. Rephrase your question.
Okay. You, after you handed the citation, Officer Cotton performed the dog sniff, correct?
Okay, I at this time we are going over and over testimony that's already been elicited from the witness. So if you've got a new question, I've been giving you a lot of latitude, but my patience is wearing thin because we're going over and over and over. Some of these have been answered 3 and 4 times already.
I agree, and I'll try to clean it up.
Well, I'm asking you just if you've got a new question that came about from something that came out from the cross-examination, but we're not going to start over ab initio and, go for another hour with this witness. You had your direct exam. There was a cross. Now follow up with any questions and let's finish up.
Okay, Officer Cantu,
Yes, ma'am.
why did you not tell her go on her way after you handed the citation?
I just explained that to you. I had indicators. There was something wrong about the traffic stop. I didn't
And so-
know what I did not know what it was. Okay.
Okay.
Did not
But
know.
you kept her there. Would you agree you kept her there so you could perform the dog sniff, correct?
I kept her there because I had Officer Cotton. I wanted him to have the dog do a walk around on the vehicle.
Okay. No further questions.
Mr. Bryan?
Just a couple of follow-ups, Officer Camp. You indicated that you didn't have clarity on what was going on, but you felt there was some activity that would lead you to believe there was potentially illegal or illicit either drugs, weapons, contraband, etc., either within the defendant's person or is in the vehicle. Is that what your testimony is today, Officer Candace?
Yes.
And as part of that, in requesting Officer Cantu to do a walk around, did you have reasonable suspicion? Is that what your testimony that you're giving today when you indicate that you felt something was going on?
I thought something was out of the ordinary.
Sorry, Officer Cantu.
I felt something was out of the ordinary based on that on the traffic stop. From the time, like I said, from the time she would not stop or slow down. Those are indicators.
Are those indicators having a specific name or police terminology that you are referring to?
They're just red flags. Why didn't the person slow down? Why didn't the person stop? Why is the person continuing to drive on? Why is the person continuing to drive at a higher rate of speed than normal? Those are indicators, those are red flags. There's something going on, but I cannot pinpoint it.
And it is your testimony that you were not the officer that detained the defendant. Was that you or Officer Cotton?
When Officer Cotton asked Mrs. Filborn to exit the vehicle, she came behind the vehicle. At that time, she is being detained.
Is your testimony for clarity that Ms. Filburn was not arrested, she was detained?
She was not arrested, no.
And in detaining Ms. Filburn at the time that it was determined, was a warrant required during that for that detainment?
No, sir.
And can you please advise the court why a warrant was not required?
Well, because there was probable cause. Once the dog alerted, there's possible contraband in the vehicle.
Thank you, Officer Canty. No further questions, Your Honor.
Ms. Collins, any follow-up?
No, Judge, I think I've done enough damage.
Okay. I have one question, Officer Cantu, if I could.
Yes, sir.
I do understand that you had your emergency overhead lights activated as soon as you clocked her, and then you looked in the side view mirror. You saw the brake lights come on. You effectuated a U-turn and began pursuit of the vehicle of the defendant here. At the time that your red lights were activated, was your audible siren activated as well?
Yes.
So
I control the sound. I
Sure.
switch to different levels.
right, different levels, different tones, high, low, yelp,
Yes.
wail, right, all those different sounds. But during this, you're talking about for almost 60 seconds, your siren was on behind the defendant?
Yes, the siren was on. Like I said, I go back and forth with it, change
Okay.
the sounds.
All right. And from the distance that you were at to the defendant, do you feel that it was close enough with the capacity of your siren that the defendant should have been able to hear your siren?
Oh, yes.
Okay, all right. I've got nothing else. Okay, at this time, thank you, officer.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. And Ms. Collins, you may call your next witness. I think you're muted right now, Ms. Collins. There you go.
And Judge, I just, before I forget, I don't know if the court typically does such, but I'll request to get at the hearing, but I would like to tender the state's videos for the court's review prior to making its decision, if the court would allow me to do so.
Okay, you've got some videos, the patrol car video, is that what you're saying?
Right.
Well, obviously, I don't have capacity to view the video unless somebody provides it to me, or.
And that was my proposal, that at the close of the hearing, we get you a copy and at least of the initial stop, if you would be, moved to review that prior to making your decision.
Okay. And Mr. Bryan, do you have any objections to that?
Well, the defense in testimony, obviously, in submitting her suppression evidence, makes no mention of an issue with the videos, had an opportunity to submit those to you to the court, so the state would object to that.
Okay, all right. The state's objecting, and I'm going to sustain that objection. It wasn't made part of the motion or incorporated within the motion, so, and I think it's clear that there was a reason for the stop, at least to me it is right now, so. All right, next witness.
I would, at this point, call Officer Cotton. Oh, excuse me.
Okay. And also, you've already been sworn in. If you'd state your full name for the record, please, sir.
Yes, Judge. My full name's Walton Norman Cotton.
All right. Defense may proceed.
All right. All right, Officer Cotton. Yeah, I'm. If the court would allow me, can I go grab my water? I'm not sure I'm going to be able to make it through this without clearing my throat up a little bit.
All right. This time, we'll go ahead and take a 5-minute recess and bathroom break, water break, whatever you need. We'll take a 5-minute recess. Very good.
Thank you.
Your Honor.
One of us will come out to you.
I'm back. I don't know if who else present or if we're ready to go. I didn't know if you're waiting on me, Judge. Yeah, the judge isn't back. Okay.
Probably a minute. 30 seconds.
How did I do?
Okay. Everybody back yet? Mr. Brian? Ms. Collins?
Judge, I am so sorry about this. I just got told to report in a court, and I forgot I had a Zoom setting. Can I just email them really quick to tell them I'm in a hearing? And
Yes.
okay, thank you. I'm so sorry about that. So sorry.
Okay, you're a witness, and Officer Cotton is identified. He's under oath, so you may proceed.
Good afternoon, Officer Cotton. Excuse me.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
All right. I promise I will try to be less confusing this time around. So how long have you been a certified police officer in the state of Texas?
Almost 6 years now.
6 years. And have you always been a peace officer in Texas, or were you in some other state?
I've been a Texas peace officer the whole time, ma'am.
Okay. And is Bertram the first agency you worked for, or were there?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So you went to, I don't know what they call it, basic peace officer academy, or what was your first type of training?
I went to Law Enforcement Training Center at San Antonio College.
Okay. And at that point, you graduated and you were eligible to be a Texas peace officer?
Not yet. You have to be state certified too. At the time, it was going transition from T-close to T-pole, but yes, ma'am.
Okay. And what kind of training did you have at your basic training on traffic stops? Let's just start there. Traffic stops.
Traffic stops. Well, obviously, to stop somebody, you have to have probable cause. You have to have a legal reason to stop them. Went over the various types of telltale signs. Somebody's, whether or not, due to the fact that different police departments, agencies, what have you, use different forms of radar. We didn't use radar at the police academy. But we'd go over a traffic code. Due to the fact that sometimes people have illicit substances. Well, as far as traffic stops, to answer your question, we'll hit on the health and safety code as well.
Okay.
As far as traffic stops are concerned.
Okay. And have you done, isn't it true that you have to do so many hours per year to keep certification or something like that?
Yes, to be a peace officer, you got every 2 years, there's a new gauntlet, we'll call it, of courses you have to maintain. Every level has a certain number of courses and specific courses you have to do.
Okay. And have you done further training on traffic stops and stuff there on traffic stops, for example?
Outside of the norm, no, ma'am.
Okay. Have you done any sort of training on, I don't even know what you call it, drug interdiction?
Yes.
Okay.
Shortly after I passed the K-9 school, I attended a criminal interdiction school where we went over not just narcotics, but as far as human smuggling, any type of smuggling for that matter, currency, goods across state lines, national boundaries, things like that.
Okay. And what was the certification you did for the K-9?
Well, you have to get certified through whatever K-9 school you go through. I also got certified by the National Narcotic NDDA, National Narcotic Detection Dog Association.
Okay.
So my K-9 Max and we are nationally certified.
Okay. And how long have you been with Max?
Now approximately 3 years now.
Okay. And was he your first dog?
Yes, he was.
And so would you consider responding to this particular traffic stop part of your routine traffic stop responses, or was there anything that at first sort of tipped you off that this was not just a normal stop for speeding?
Certainly, when I got the call, Officer Cantu had called me to assist him in pursuit of a Nissan vehicle that
Okay.
wasn't stopping.
Okay. And do you know how long that it took to get that message to you after he had initiated his sirens and lights?
I'm not a big fan of speculating, so I'm not going to give you a number, but it was fairly, I'm assuming, quick.
Okay. And how did you find them?
Find what, ma'am?
The Officer Cantu and Miss Filburn.
Soon after he called out, I observed the Nissan vehicle blowing past me, and then I saw Officer Cantu very, very shortly after. Pulled a U-turn on 29 with my lights on, and found them momentarily after, about approximately 500 block over by the city park, West 29.
Okay. So did you get behind Officer Cantu as he was following Miss Filburn?
Pretty much, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And what do you mean by pretty much?
He was already close to, or motion of his vehicle was already pulling over. So about time he started pulling over behind Miss Filburn, it's about time I was catching up to him.
Okay. And how long between the time you saw them pass you and elapsed before you pulled up behind them?
Seconds.
If you had to put a number on it, what would it be?
I don't know, 5, 8 seconds, maybe. I don't know.
And where were you when you saw them pass?
I was maybe, again, 2 years ago, maybe 300-400 block of East 29.
Okay. Let's see. Judge, I'm just gonna leave the court, and I am so sorry about this. My phone is apparently losing battery by the minute. I'm gonna have to plug this in, or I'm gonna drop out.
Okay.
I'm sorry about that, Judge. Let me just go grab my charger. I apologize. I didn't realize it was getting this low. I
Okay.
couldn't see it. Okay. I am terribly sorry. I just wasn't anticipating being on this device. It's not the best one for this, but so I apologize for that. So you arrive on the scene, and you're the second one there, correct?
Okay.
You arrive after Officer Cantu.
Yes, I do.
Okay. And you approached Miss Filburn on the driver's side.
I approached the left side of her vehicle. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you spoke to her through her window.
After Officer Cantu left her car, yes, I did.
And did you ask her anything in particular?
No, not yet. Not at that moment.
Okay. And at what point did you talk to her?
After Officer Cantu and I discussed the situation, told me red flags he had seen. I went up to her because as a, you mind if I describe to you K9 handler responsibilities, things like that?
Sure.
Okay. If we get a call from an officer and we show up, this hasn't happened to me yet, but we show up and officer goes, I want you to run your dog on the car. Okay. As K9 handlers, we ask, okay, what's the reason? I don't know isn't a good reason. If an officer ever told me that, I won't run my dog. Again, 2 years ago, I don't remember the reasons he gave me, but the ones he did give me were after talking with Ms. Filburn, those are the reasons that I got to and further as a K9 handler, we get to make the call whether it's a safe situation to deploy the dog, or whether or not, there's enough reasonable suspicion to deploy the dog.
Okay.
Does that make sense, Counselor?
Yeah, it does. So he gave you his reasons that we all know and love now. Did you see anything of your own that he?
Yes. After he gave me the reasons, I went up, made contact with Miss Filburn. I started asking her a few questions, things like that. Again, almost 2 years now, I don't remember the questions I asked her. Kind of explained to her, hey, because of these things that I'm seeing and I'll touch on those. As I'm talking to her, she started talking about how the stop and everything we were doing was against her civil rights, things of that nature. And so I was explaining to her, hey, I'm gonna run my dog, which is slang for, I'm gonna deploy my dog, do an open air sniff of the vehicle. And again, started raising her voice saying that, this is against their civil rights. After, a momentary time, she did exit the vehicle. Customary, you pull them off to the side because you don't want them standing, driver's side of the vehicle out in traffic. We usually try to pull them off, as far away from the street as possible. I went and got my police K9 and deployed them.
Okay. Now, you said you noticed that she mentioned some things about how you deploying your dog was against her civil rights, or she made some complaints about that?
Yes.
Okay. Did she start saying anything about her civil rights prior to you saying that you were going to run the dog, or like when did that
I don't recall,
start happening?
ma'am. I don't recall. Again,
Okay.
almost 2 years ago.
Okay. So the decision to deploy the dog might have been made prior to her saying anything about her civil rights, possibly?
Yeah, after Officer Cantu started discussing the possibility of deploying my police service dog, his reasons, and then talking with her, seeing erratic behavior, the fact that from the time, and I've spent my entire time as a Texas peace officer here in Bertram. From the time that the traffic stop kind of began where Officer Cantu was saying he was at, to the time where it ended, there was ample parking spots, very, very safe shoulders of the road. There, our electric co-op in the area, PEC, they have a large parking lot. There's also a large dirt lot, etc. Plenty of places on both sides of the highway. In my experience of running my dog or deploying my dog finding narcotics on Highway 29, usually when somebody is failing or not stopping and they're going in excess amount of time, it's usually because they're stashing something someplace inside the vehicle.
Okay. But you also would agree with Officer Cantu that the time it took for her to stop would not amount to probable cause to charge her with fleeing from a peace officer?
No, that's why she wasn't. She ended up stopping well within city limits.
Okay. And you wouldn't have charged her with evading with a motor vehicle?
No, I've had plenty of stops that I've done myself where somebody was refusing to stop and kept going until they finally decided to pull over. I've had those before and I never charged anybody with those.
Okay. So if she, what about, so she did end up stopping.
Yes.
We all agree on that. And so we'd all agree that she, how do I say this? Was it your perception that she was trying to elude you? What about the time it took for her to stop? What strikes you as being somehow indicative of criminal activity?
Past experience working narcotics detection dog on Highway 29.
Okay.
And in good faith on the information I had from Officer Cantu, plus what I was seeing, somebody real hesitant about any information on the side of the road.
Okay.
Again, my experience, I've been doing canine handler 3 years now.
Sure.
That's usually how a traffic stop that results in illicit substances, my experience, narcotics, usually plays out.
Plays out how they take a long time to stop?
Usually, typically, it usually starts off somebody, no, okay, well, and at the end of a traffic stop where I deploy my canine service dog, somebody hesitant to give up any information like that usually ends up resulting in that. So acting in good faith on the information provided by Officer Cantu, I deployed my service dog.
Okay. I just went back up. So there's a lot there. So I guess the original question was, when she didn't stop at the amount of time that you thought was appropriate, you thought it took her too long. But did you see any signs that she was actually trying to get away from you? I mean, what would be if she's involved in criminal activity, what would be the reason to drive for a minute and then stop? What is indicative of criminal activity about that?
Objection, compound question.
That would be up to Officer Cantu. I wasn't the one doing the traffic stop.
Okay. But do you agree with him that that is an indicator of criminal activity?
One of many, yes.
And so I would ask you, based on your training and experience, why that is.
Because if somebody is, and I'll use a wide range of offenses, is that okay, Counselor? Whether somebody, not just narcotics, somebody's wanted, somebody's done something, somebody has illegal weapons, whatever, inside the vehicle. There's criminal activity afoot in that vehicle. Is somebody that's committed a crime going to immediately stop? No, in my experience, no, they're not.
But in your experience, they stop eventually?
Eventually, yes. After I've located narcotic stuff inside the headliner that they were doing, that they had stashed up there. After I turned my back to go to my patrol car, I've found narcotics stashed inside of seats, inside of shoes.
Okay.
When they've had that time where they're speeding off from whoever, whether it's me or another officer trying to pull them over for a simple traffic violation, they have that amount of time to actually, in 1 minute, 1 minute, you can do a lot of things in 1 minute. 30 seconds, you can get a lot done. And so that's usually one thing that happens.
Okay.
Like I said, it's one of many things that can happen.
And in your experience, would you say that's the most common thing you see happening when people don't stop fast enough?
Objection calls for speculation.
If you can answer it in your experience, officer, when you have people, I think she's asking if you have people that don't stop right away in your experience, is that indicative of criminal action or narcotics? Is that what you were asking?
Well, Judge, Officer Cotton, used the example using
Okay,
the
just
time.
rephrase your question. I'll sustain the objection and rephrase the question.
Um, most often, Officer Cotton, when you see this indicator in traffic stops of people having a delay but stopping eventually,
Mhm.
is it in your experience that when the narcotics, for example, are eventually discovered, that they have been hidden?
Uh, Not stopping soon enough wouldn't be a reason to suspect that, if that's what you're asking. Yeah,
Okay.
I've had stops where somebody didn't stop soon enough and they're rushing their dog to the vet. They just, I think within the past 4 or 5 months, I had somebody whose wife was in the front seat in labor. I told them go, and is it a red flag? Yes, but does it mean that, does it mean that for a fact there's criminal activity afoot? No.
Sure. Yeah, I guess maybe I was just asking that of my own curiosity. I'll move past it. So and you said you spoke to Christina, but you don't quite remember what you said to her or what you asked her.
No.
Okay.
I do remember explaining to her that, hey, we're open air sniff. I don't remember my exact verbiage or verbatim. So forgive me on that, please, counselor. But initially, say I stop Jane Doe, John Doe, whatever, driving down the road. What I'll do is I'll tell them, hey, I'm seeing these signs, which I did tell her. This and these signs or these reasons, reasonable suspicion is why I'm going to deploy my K9 service dog. And majority of the time, people don't argue. Okay, whatever, they get out. I do my thing and it's over and done with.
But did I misunderstand that you said that there were some red flags you detected independently
Yes.
because of
Yes.
behavior
Yes.
prior to you telling her that you were going to deploy the dog?
Yes, combining the information I got good faith from Officer Kane 2 with while I was talking to her, saying, hey, the very argumentative, already assuming I'm going to violate her civil rights, and just escalating her tone of voice, escalating verbally the whole situation. It's okay. When I started asking her different questions, got real defensive. She appeared to be real protective of the inside of the vehicle. And that, for me, working narcotics K9, eyes darting back and forth, things like that. That's usually tell signs for me working in narcotics K9 or working any form of interdiction on the highway that somebody does have something illegal in the vehicle or anything of that nature.
Okay. And what do you mean by she seemed to be really protective of the inside of the vehicle?
Anytime I asked her questions about the vehicle or anything of that nature, she got real guarded, started talking about how anything about the vehicle and what we're doing with her in her vehicle was against her rights. And again, in my experience, that usually starts building up to, okay, well, I'm to them having them being the driver, passengers, whoever's in the vehicle, having something illicit inside the vehicle.
Okay. And by you saying she was objecting to what you're doing to the vehicle,
At
that
this point in time, she was still in her vehicle.
okay? And so, what exactly was she objecting to?
I was explaining to her I was gonna run the dog on the car. I mean, years before I became a cop, I got yanked out of my car, and it was for an ice chest. The officer was concerned that had illegal stuff in it, and I believe that was his words, illegal stuff. So I made it a point. I try to make it a point as an officer, talk to somebody from their car instead of yanking them out first. I try to do that. I've gotten, a real mean person before. And so I try to learn from my own experiences. So I'm trying to talk to her from her car. Hey, this is everything I'm seeing. I'm going to run my dog on the car. I was requested. again, the information in good faith that I got from Officer Cantu, combined with the argumentative and ill behavior coming from Ms. Filburn, I believe there was enough reasonable suspicion to suspect that perhaps there was, on my end, narcotics in the vehicle.
Okay.
So I began asking her to exit the vehicle. I even stepped a little further away, just a little bit, to make sure, if anybody was going to get hit, it's me. That's what I do for everybody. Not just that, to let other drivers know, hey, stay away from this area.
Okay.
She had ample space. Because I have to give clear commands to my police dog, I did have my mask down. She asked me, I think a couple times, put my mask up. It was still during COVID. I did end up putting my mask up. My little, believe it, at the time it was a gray and black neck gaiter of some kind. So, I did that. I stepped back and eventually she did exit the vehicle.
Okay. And I'm gonna not do like I did last time. I'm just gonna tell you exactly what I'm trying to figure out here.
Just ask your question, counsel. We don't need to sidebar comments. Just ask your question.
I'm sorry. At what point did she become, as you phrased it, argumentative?
I'd say a quarter of the way through my dialogue with her.
And what did you say that preceded that?
I don't remember. I don't recall. It's been a couple weeks.
Sure. Had you already told her that you were going to deploy the dog?
That was one of the first things I did mention to her, if I recall correctly. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So would you agree that is it correct that she was not argumentative before she knew that you were going to run your dog around the car?
Not as much, no, ma'am.
She wasn't as.
No, she starting to kind of build it up, but no, she, I do give leeway to people when I talk to them on the side of the road. Who in the world likes being pulled over? Who likes talking to the cops, right? So I do give some leniency, some leeway to people, but as I started explaining what's going to happen, that's when it started building up. If that answers your question. Okay,
so the objections that I think you used the phrase no, that all happened subsequent to her being told that you were gonna get your dog and run the sniff.
I don't recall what I said.
Okay. Regardless, I guess my point is did she know? Yeah, the argumentative, I think you use the phrase no. Did she know that you were going to deploy the dog before all that happened?
Again, I don't remember what I said or what stage I may have or may not have said no. But from the start, I did start letting her know I was going to be deploying my K9 service dog.
Okay.
So perhaps by then, she more than likely would have already been told K9 service dog is going to be deployed.
Okay. And I think you said that there's an indicator to you that she was being very protective of the vehicle. Was that in response to her knowledge that the dog was going to be deployed?
Yes.
Okay. And was there anything else you mentioned? You said something about the eyes darting around. What did you mean by that? Was that when you were talking to her?
You were asking about indicators, things like that. And so I was letting you know, in my experience, if I start moving around, start looking at different areas and I'm speaking in general, counselor, I apologize. If somebody starts looking at a certain area of their car, that's one of thousands of indicators that are out there. Doesn't always mean that somebody's doing something against the law.
Okay.
Somebody could have an eye issue or whatever, their eyes move around. Again, it doesn't mean anything's going on. It's, one of many indicators.
And did you testify that you saw that happening with Cressida?
Did I testify that I saw her eyes doing that? I said that you asked me if what about indicators, and so I was explaining to you. Yeah, you know, you asked me a broad question about indicators, and so same indicators like that could.
I got you.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, cool. So you weren't, you didn't mean to say that that's something you saw Christina doing?
No,
during
I
this
was
training?
answering your, I guess, your previous question before that, maybe.
Okay, okay. And let's see. So you didn't write any citations. You didn't write the speeding citation.
Did I write the speeding citation? No, ma'am. The only one I wrote was for possession of drug paraphernalia.
Okay. Did you confer at all, again, after speaking with Christina, did you confer at all again with Officer Cantu prior to him issuing her the speeding citation?
I mean, after I asked her to exit the vehicle and she did?
Well, I think let me just clarify. She was in the vehicle when the speeding citation was issued, correct? As far as you know.
No, ma'am. When
Okay.
I started my dialogue, my initial dialogue with her, she hadn't exited the vehicle. She hadn't received any citation or anything yet.
Okay.
So
Okay.
my dialogue, my part of this whole incident began during his Officer Cantu's traffic stop.
Okay. Okay. Let's see. I think that's all the questions I have. I'll pass the witness.
Mr. Bryan?
Thank you, Your Honor. Officer Cantu, you indicated that you have national narcotic, I believe it's the National Narcotic Officer Association, nationally certified for canine use and training.
Yes, Counselor. It's a National Narcotic Detection Dog Association.
Thank you, Officer Connie, for that clarification.
No worries.
In your testimony that you conferred with Officer Cantu, and in conferring with Officer Cantu, did Officer Cantu advise you that he had reasonable suspicion of illegal or illicit drug use or activity or contraband, weapons, etc., in the vehicle?
He said he had some concerns about it that, and again, you know, it's been almost 2 years. I'm trying to remember it back, Counselor, but he believed there may have been something inside the vehicle. In our area, most of the time it is narcotics. But he did believe there was something illicit or criminal inside the vehicle.
Okay, you mentioned that you didn't remember. Is there something that would refresh your recollection?
If anybody's got any narcotics or anything from the stop, that would help, or a report.
All right, report. Your Honor, I would like to show Officer Cotton what is marked as State's Exhibit 4 for the purpose of refreshing his recollection.
Okay. Any objections to Ms. Collins?
If you don't mind me just refreshing my memory, which one is Exhibit 4? Is that his first video?
No, it's his report, right? Is that what you're saying?
It's incident report.
Offense report by Officer Collins? Cotton? Sorry.
Officer Cantu, yes.
Oh, this is Officer Cantu's report?
I'm sorry, excuse me, Officer Cotton.
Officer Cotton's offense report. Okay.
I'm sorry. I thought I had an Exhibit 4 that was a video. Was that, did you send that to me today?
I did, and it needs to be remarked.
Okay, so let me ask you, Officer Cotton, with the review of your police offense report related to this incident, help refresh your recollection of the events? I think you testified before it would.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll go ahead and admit it. If you want to show it to him, Mr. Bryan, that's fine.
Officer Cotton, do you recognize this exhibit here?
Yes, I do.
And by way of recognition, can you advise the court what this document is?
It is, it's got our department letterhead of sorts, upper left, case number, has title of the offense report, K9 narcotics search.
Are there any other identifying information with respect to this report to yourself?
Yes, bottom right-hand box there at the top, it has the investigating officer, which is myself, has my last name, first name, my unit ID number with the badge number, which is 530. And in the left box, it has the date and approximate time of the incident, as well as the suspect's name.
Officer Cotton, is this a report that is usually conducted or prepared, in your normal course involving your canine, or in this case, an alleged offense of drug paraphernalia?
Yes.
Has this report been altered from its original state?
To my knowledge, no.
And last question with respect to it, has this report tied to the defendant in question?
Is the report tied to the defendant in question? Yes.
Your Honor, Officer Cotton has identified the Bertram Police Department report, offense report associated with today's case, and the state will request that it be admitted as State's Exhibit cutting out number, but should be State's Exhibit number 8.
Any objections, Ms. Collins?
No objection.
No
take it with me
objections.
now.
State's Exhibit number 8 is admitted in evidence. If you want to scroll down, I guess, and publish it.
Officer Cotton, are these pages 6 of 6 as your report initially prepared?
Yes. I've got a blank screen. Yes. Pages 6 of 6. Yes.
All right. Officer Cotton, I am going to point your attention, and I am going to highlight for the purposes, you advised that you talked with Officer 10-2 regarding your stop. Is this where I am highlighting where you had the discussion about with Officer 10-2 about the reason for the stop?
That's, yes, that in the second paragraph down covers that. Yes. Yes, Counselor.
Okay. Can you advise or read for the court the second sentence that starts with "I made the scene"?
Yes, I made the scene.
I object to him reading
verbatim from the report. He can use it to refresh his memory, but he can't just read it.
Well, the report's been admitted in evidence.
Okay. All right.
So the objection's overruled. You can go ahead, officer.
Yes,
The
Judge.
report was admitted in evidence without any objection, so you can read it.
I made the scene. Officer Cantu contacted the vehicle's driver. After Officer Cantu returned to his vehicle, he asked me to run my canine on the vehicle. Told him I would after he was free to watch the driver.
All right, Officer Cotton. In your discussion, I'm now going to take this off of share. So in your discussion with Officer Cantu, as part of State's Exhibit A, does that highlight the reason as to why Officer Cantu felt that your running the canine around the vehicle was appropriate?
Yes.
After you engaged the defendant, Officer Cotton, you gave testimony that the defendant became or was agitated with increasing agitation. With that increasing agitation, were there any other indicators or areas that you saw that would give you concern?
Concern as far as officer safety or something illegal in the vehicle?
Concern to both officer safety and in specific to an illegal something in the vehicle.
Just my experience dealing with the drivers in today's day and age, yes. I believe there may have been something dealing with officer safety there, yes.
All right. You testified, and as you did now, I'm going to put back up State's Exhibit 8. If you would, where I am highlighting,
Okay.
read where it explains third sentence, I explain.
Okay. I explained that I would be running my canine on her vehicle, and I asked her if she had anything illegal in the vehicle. Filburn told me no. Filburn immediately became argumentative about how a canine search is against her rights.
Thank you, Officer Cotton. I'm going to pull down State's Exhibit number 8. So the defendant, after you asked if she had anything illegal in the vehicle, what was her response just for the purposes of hearing it again for the court?
Became very argumentative, increasingly progressing tone of voice up, became real verbally defensive about it, started saying that canine search of the inside of her vehicle, which I don't recall at any time saying I was going to put my dog or have my dog search the inside of a vehicle, was against her rights. It's called open air canine sniff. We run the dog on the outside of the vehicle, we don't just throw the dog on the inside.
All right. Let me rephrase. Did you ask the defendant if she had anything illegal in her vehicle?
Yes.
And what was the defendant's answer?
Answer was no.
Thank you, Officer Cotton. So based on her answer and her behavior at that time, did you make a determination to deploy your canine max that you identified around the defendant's vehicle?
Yes, sir. That's approximately the time I made the decision for the deployment. Yes.
So can you explain to the court what your actions that you took in deploying the canine max in conducting the open air search as you've mentioned?
Certainly. For a number of reasons, canine handlers will have the driver, and if there's other passengers, everybody inside the vehicle step out, not only for their safety, but because these dogs are very well trained and very protective of their handlers, also for their safety as well. Not only that, if handler was to allow people to stay inside the vehicle, they could be destroying evidence, or again, if we haven't seen inside the vehicle, they could have a weapon or whatever. Not necessarily everybody's going to do it, but they could deploy a weapon against us or drive off. And so for everybody's safety involved, we do have people step out of the vehicle, which is what I did. After it was safe to deploy the K9, I took him out and deployed him on her vehicle, sir.
In deploying the K9, what occurred at that point?
On approach the vehicle, he was given the command to search. We started left rear quarter panel, working our way up the left side of the vehicle. During course of the open air K9 sniff of the outside of her vehicle, he ended up alerting on the left rear passenger door of the vehicle.
And by way of alert, what specifically was the alerting action or movement by the K9?
It was a passive indication, or alert. He performed kind of a sit motion.
And is that part of K9 training and standard when there is an alert of either illegal or illicit drug or other illicit or illegal contraband, Officer Connie?
Yes, he'll perform either a sit, a down, which some people refer to as laying down on his stomach. His body might freeze, or any other number of abnormal body language. But yes, sir.
Of what you just testified, is that indicated in State's Exhibit 8 in your officer report?
Was it indicated in the report? Yes.
For the purposes of evidence, I'm going to highlight and show where the testimony is corroborated by the offense report. If you could read where I highlighted Officer Cotton for the purposes of corroboration.
Yes. I deployed my narcotics K9. K9 Max began a search at the left rear quarter panel and up the left side of the rear of the vehicle. When K9 Max came up to the left rear passenger door, which he alerted by performing a sit, I rewarded him, placed him in his kennel in my patrol unit.
Thank you, Officer Cotton. After the K9 and you provided him with a reward and placed him back in your patrol unit, what occurred afterwards?
Search of the vehicle was done, and that's when I notified driver she was detained. During the search, a number of items were located. I asked her about it. She said it was all medicinal.
And so the defendant advised you it was all medicinal. And in that advisement of it being medicinal, did you accept the answer outright as provided, or were there other actions that you took?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Let me rephrase. You advised that you returned back to the defendant and had a conversation in which the defendant advised you or gave you an answer that what was found in the vehicle was medicinal.
Yes.
After the defendant advised you that it was medicinal, what did you do afterwards?
Further investigation of the vehicle was done. Evidence was seized and logged.
Okay. By way of seizure, how did you conduct the search of the defendant's vehicle?
Started on driver's side. You want me to go into the search, Counselor?
So my question is, after you were advised that it was medicinal, what actions occurred?
I apologize, Counselor. I'm understanding your question now. I informed during our dialogue outside the vehicle, she advised that I believe she was from somewhere in upper Northeast or something, mother had cancer, something respectfully. And I informed her that in the state of Texas, any amount of marijuana is still illegal. So she was advised that any amount of marijuana is still illegal in the state of Texas.
So doing your search, do you recall where you found any items that would be considered either contraband or illegal substance?
Yes.
Could you explain to the court where those items were found specifically?
Not specific locations. I remember some of the items that were in the vehicle. Off the top of my head, Counselor, I can't give specific locations.
Would reviewing your incident report regarding this help refresh your recollection?
Absolutely, yes.
State's going to put back up State's admitted number 8 for the purposes of refreshing the officer's recollection. I'm going to highlight in yellow. And if you will read silently.
You said silently?
Yeah, if you'll read silently, Officer.
Yes, sir. All right.
All right. When you're finished, appears you've let me know.
Yes, sir. I'm finished.
I'm going to take State's Exhibit 8 down. I'll rephrase my question. Can you provide to the court where you specifically found either illegal or contraband within the search of the vehicle?
Yes, front driving area. There was inside of a cigarillo bag. There was a used joint, or which sometimes referred to as sometimes people either roll or empty out a cigarette or a cigar and replace the contents with ground up marijuana. Based upon the approximate size of the bag and everything, I assumed it to be approximately half smoked joint in there. And as I continued searching the vehicle, I discovered a black gift bag with the name High Note on it. High spelled H-I-G-H, word note. Also on the bag was the shape of a marijuana leaf with a gold coloring, yellowish gold color to it. Also in that area was a couple of glass jars with different strains of marijuana. And there were some grinders with marijuana crumbs, or sometimes called shake, inside.
Based on your training and your experience, or let me rephrase, upon finding the, as you mentioned, High Note, the rolled cigarillo, other leafy green substance, did you immediately know with certainty that the items there were marijuana?
Yes, even further investigating on that, I did look up the company High Note. They do sell recreational marijuana.
And did you at any point ever test the actual marijuana to get confirmation that it was as such?
No. If I was making an arrest, I would have tested before we went anywhere, but it wasn't enough to make an arrest.
Of the other items that you mentioned another gift bag, you mentioned glass jars, you mentioned also some crumbs and grinders.
Yes.
Are those considered paraphernalia under the code or statute under the state of Texas?
Yes, sir.
Is possession of such items in violation of those codes?
Yes.
And could you advise the court specifically the code violation that you are referring to?
Not off the top of my head, no.
Okay. So would it help if for you to have your memory refreshed?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. I'm going to put back up State's Exhibit A.
And Officer Cotton, let me ask you, do you need to get some water? Do you need to grab a
I'm fine, Judge. I'm just getting over a cough, so if my voice sounds hoarse, I do
okay.
apologize.
Well, sometimes after testimony, that'll do it too. Okay, very good.
Thank you, Judge.
You bet.
Officer Cotton, where you look at the offense section of your incident report, does the information there refresh your recollection as to the specific statute or code that would relate to possession of narcotic or drug paraphernalia?
Would you mind scrolling up to the top, sir? Sometimes Class C misdemeanors, they don't put much on there. I'm not seeing the info on there, sir.
Right, not a problem. I will take it on State's Exhibit number 8. I'll move on from that questioning and may come back to it. After you made your determination following the K9 sit down, following your search, what occurred after that?
Sorry, Counselor, you're kind of breaking up.
After you found the illegal substance, and that was post to the K9 making a positive indication, what happened after your search?
Went and spoke with Ms. Filburn again. I started doing my citation. She was cited PODP. Everything was evidence was seized, and I believe that's when we let her go on her way.
During that time, did you ask the defendant again if any of what was found and seized belonged to her?
I don't recall, sir.
Okay. Is there an obligation under the code or statute to require for an offense of possession of drug paraphernalia that it be owned by the individual in the vehicle?
No. However, her prior statements saying that it was medicinal told me already that she was aware of the marijuana inside of her vehicle, and her just simply being in possession of illegal narcotics, being in possession of narcotics in your vehicle, when you're operating the vehicle, you're responsible for everything inside the vehicle. And her telling me that it's medicinal told me she was aware of its presence in the vehicle and was still operating the vehicle in city limits of Bertrand.
Officer Cotton, your collection, did you seize and collect the evidence in accordance with the policies and procedures of the city of Bertram and any state in the state statutes accordingly?
I did.
Have those items been logged in accordance with the process, procedures, and state statutes accordingly?
Yes.
To your knowledge, have they been tampered with, removed, or otherwise destroyed from the date in which they were collected and seized?
My knowledge, no.
Right. I have two last questions for you, Officer Cotton. You testified again before that the driver became agitated when you advised that the canine was going to do a air search of the vehicle. Is that your testimony today?
Yes, that he was going to do an open air. I was going to help give my dog command do an open air sniff of the exterior. Yes, sir. That is my testimony.
And based on your training and your based on your training and experience, was your judgment correct in the ultimate search and seizure of the evidence that is of subject of today's hearing in the offense?
Yes.
If you were to conduct the stop again, is there anything that you would do differently with respect to this stop?
No.
No further questions are asked the witness.
Colin, any follow-up questions?
Yes, Judge. Officer Cotton, I would like to direct your attention. Can you still see your offense report, or do I need to?
If you can put it up, Counselor, that would be great. Thank you.
I just got this at 1 o'clock this afternoon, and I am not exactly sure how I would put that up. Would the state be so kind as to assist me, or do you want me to try to figure this out? It's been published, so I don't know if I can persuade you.
Can you put it up, Mr. Brian? Put up that state's exhibit, which I believe was number 8. The offense report, right? Where do you want him to focus on? What part?
Underneath, what page is this?
That's
page 5.
Page. Okay.
Page 5, Mr. Brian. There's good. Officer Cotton, underneath the word complaint, can you read that for me? That first paragraph where it starts with I was
requested via police radio by Officer came to assist him in pursuit of a Nissan car. I turned around and activated my flashers, sirens, and my marked patrol unit. I observed Officer Cantu pass me at a high rate of speed with his emergency flashers on in his marked patrol unit pursuing Nissan vehicle.
Thank you. So you wrote in your report that you noted that you had your flashers and your sirens on.
Yes.
And you noted that you observed Officer Cantu passing you.
Yes.
And you noted that he had his emergency flashers on.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. You did not note that he had his emergency sirens on.
Normally, when you put your flashers on chasing a vehicle, you do put your sirens on, yes.
Normally, but you would agree that you noted that you put your flashers and sirens on.
Yes, I did.
And you didn't note that for Officer Cantu.
Jeff, Your Honor, argumentative.
Overruled. You can answer the question if you know.
If it's not in the report, yeah. I noted his flashers were on, yes.
Thank you. And now, you have, at this point, you noted in your report that you'd been a canine handler with Max for 4 months at the time of this stop, right?
Can you scroll up, Counselor?
I think it's at the top there, approximately 4
Yeah.
months. Okay. And I realize that Bertram is a small department. Is canine handling the only thing you do?
No, it says I successfully completed canine handler school in January of that year.
Okay. So how do you normally conduct your canine handling? Do you do that just when you're on regular patrol, or how does that come into play with your normal duties?
Here, like you said, Council, we're a small agency, we all wear a million different hats. Normally I do work patrol, but if a need arises rather, I can do, somebody calls for K9, I'm available, I can respond. Other than that, I handle almost every facet of police work. I sometimes fill in for the SRO when he's gone. I've filled in for bailiff. We do a lot of responsibilities, not just the ones we're assigned to.
I'm sure. But on this day, do you recall if you were on normal patrol or
Every
something?
day is normal patrol. I show up to work. My primary duty is patrol. If need arises for K9 from, as I stated, I either work solo or I can work my dog solo, or I can respond to assist other officers who need a narcotics K9 sniff.
Okay.
So,
And,
but an everyday thing, I am a patrol officer.
and was that your function on this day on the 19th of September 2020?
Yes.
Okay. And when you're on regular patrol as a K9, do you have your dog with you all the time?
Yes, he's with me 24/7.
Okay. And then, do you recall if you were the only one other than Officer Cantu working that day?
At that point in time, more than likely, we were the only ones working that day.
Okay.
We're lucky if we had, back then, we were lucky if we had 2 people on duty for an entire day.
I hear you. So let me see. If the state would be so kind as to scroll up to page 4, the top. Okay. If you could start, Officer Cotton, by reading the paragraph under introduction.
On Saturday, September 19, 2020, approximately 16:55 hours, I, Officer Walton Cotton, 5:30, was requested by fellow Bertram officer, Officer P. Cantu, 5:05, to assist with Nissan vehicle is refusing to stop and beginning to accelerate to get away from Officer Cantu's marked unit.
And was that your personal observation?
Negative, acting on information from him. When officer is pursuing a vehicle, there's a difference between doing a regular traffic stop and actually chasing after somebody. If an officer is chasing after somebody or pursuing somebody on the road, that somebody from experience is trying to get away from that officer. So based upon the good faith information from Officer Cantu, I joined in with them for the stop.
Okay. And I understand that, but I just, I guess my question is that today, would you continue to characterize what Miss Filburn, her manner of abiding by this traffic stop, would you still characterize it as her refusing to stop?
She didn't refuse to stop. She ended up stopping.
Okay. And would you still characterize her as that she accelerated to get away from Officer Cantu?
Yes, as I stated in my report, not only did Officer Cantu go flying past me, as did the Nissan vehicle he was pursuing. I don't recall if I had my radar on or not, but I did have a Nissan vehicle and Officer Cantu fly past me at a abnormal rate of speed in a 45-mile-an-hour zone. I was kind of almost right at an area where Officer Cantu was.
When he started the pursuit, or when he
called out, I was, as I stated before, I was between the 300, 600 block-ish area of East 29.
Okay.
When he called out.
Okay. That was my only question about that. Let's see. And I think there's just one other thing. And if the state, if you don't mind going back down to page 5. And officer, if I could just direct your attention to the third paragraph after a complaint, it begins with when he.
Okay.
So I don't know if I can see it. Can you see it? I don't think we're scrolled up high enough.
You'll say, again, what would you like?
If you could scroll, I guess, up, like, so more page 5 is showing.
You mean down?
By the way, yeah, like scroll down, I guess. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Cool.
When he,
Okay. Yes. So Officer Cotton, if you could start with when he was done writing the citation,
Mhm.
and you can just stop it against our rights, I guess.
Okay, when he was done writing citation, how long the officer came to approach the suspect vehicle, observed the lone female driver with short hair, tank top, and a dark face mask with rainbow colored lettering on the mask. I explained that I would be running my K9 on her vehicle, and I asked if she had anything illegal in the vehicle. Filburn told me no. Filburn immediately became argumentative about how the K9 search is against the rights.
Okay. So, and you would agree that you write your reports as accurate as possible, correct?
Try to, yes,
And you would agree that part of the reason you write them is that they will serve you better than your own personal memory in situations like this, years later, correct?
yes,
And so if you were to have possibly said things here today just mistakenly, would you agree that your report might be more accurate?
the report is more accurate, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so you did say here that you approached Miss Filburn and explained to her that you would be running your K9 on the vehicle after Officer Cantu had finished writing the citation.
Correct,
Okay. And you also said that you explained to her what you were going to do with your K9, and you asked her if she had anything illegal. And at that point, your report then states that she told you no and became argumentative, correct?
correct,
And I think you would agree that that means that we can assume that obviously you had already made the decision that decision had already been made, that there was a need to or you had the decision already been made that you were going to have your K9 do the sniff, obviously.
objection, speculation.
I'll overrule. You can answer the question.
yes, decision was already made, yes.
Okay. Okay. I have nothing further.
Mr. Bryan, anything further?
Officer Cotton, at any point was the defendant arrested following the search and seizure of her vehicle?
Absolutely not. She was only detained.
And can you advise to the court approximately how long she was detained for?
Approximately, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes, maybe. I hate speculating, but yeah, if I had to put a number to it, it wasn't very long, 10, 15 minutes.
Could it have been longer or shorter?
Maybe, probably could have been longer. But again, a couple years, not that much longer, I don't believe.
Do you believe that the stop was do you believe that the time in which the defendant was detained until the end of until your conclusion of the search and writing her citation specifically for possession of drug paraphernalia was within a reasonable time?
Absolutely, yes.
And why is that? Why do you give that answer?
Nothing violated anything that was there. It was there's some case law out there saying that you don't have to wait that long. If in Officer Cantu's case, he can call for the closest K9, which was me. Nothing was. Nothing.
I guess let me rephrase the question. In your conducting of when your engagement occurred, your K9s run around the vehicle, your subsequent engagement, your search and seizure, including the detainment of the defendant, would it be considered tolerable within the time and reasonable from the time in which you allowed the defendant to go?
Yes.
Would there have been any indication that the defendant was being arrested for possession of drug paraphernalia?
No, I never told her she was arrested. She was never told she was going to jail. She was in custody.
Was the defendant ever put in the back of either your or Officer Cantu's police squad car?
As far as the back of my car, I tell you, I never put her in the back of a car. As far as I can recollect, she stayed on the side of the road outside of any vehicle.
So at the time in which you indicated you wrote a citation, she was then advised she was free to go. Is that not correct?
Yes. I advised, as far as I knew, Officer Cantu had already issued her citation. I gave her the one from me, and we were done. Drove off.
So I ask again, Officer Cotton, if you were to conduct this stop differently, would there be anything different that you would do given the circumstances that have been brought to light in part of testimony today?
No.
And your reasoning for answering no is?
Kept it short. Nothing kept her out of her vehicle very long. Everything was deployed the dog on built reasonable suspicion. I arrived on request from another officer. I don't see anything report that I've read nor in my memory that would suggest that anything needed to be done differently in the future.
Do you believe that either your actions or the actions of Officer Cantu violated this defendant's Fourth Amendment right to an unlawful search or seizure, or violated any other state statutes or rights with respect to this traffic stop?
I can't speak for any other state, but as far as this state's, no, I don't believe anything was violated at all.
All right. Thank you, Officer Cotton. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Any follow-up, Ms. Collins?
And I want to apologize if I already asked this, but did you noted in your report that Officer Cantu asked you to deploy your dog?
Yes.
You remember that?
Yes.
But you don't note any sort of conversation that you had about why he wanted that?
No, I arrived. He asked me to deploy the dog, and I deployed him.
Okay.
As far as what he said, you'd have to ask Officer Cantu. I
Okay,
can
but
only
you,
talk for my actions.
sure. But did you all, did he tell you the reasons why he wanted you to do that?
He did.
Okay.
Everything's
And
on body camera as well.
okay. And what were his reasons?
I don't recollect at this time, ma'am. It's been a couple years.
Okay. Okay. All right, fair enough. No further questions.
Okay. Thank you, Officer Cotton. And you're released. Any other witnesses?
Defense has none. Defense rests.
Okay. Mr. Bryan, any witnesses from the state other than the two we've already taken testimony from?
No further witnesses of the state, Your Honor.
All right. Closing statement. Counsel, Ms. Collins, it's your motion.
Judge, I'm sorry if I'm late in asking for this, but I don't know if the court would allow us to brief this or submit case law. I have quite a few cases that the court might find useful. I don't know what your typical procedure is.
Well, at this point, just give me your closing statement and we'll go from there.
Okay. I think there is very relatively new, but I think it's pretty well established case law that says that the reasonableness of the state has to have reasonable suspicion that they've developed in addition to the reasonable suspicion they had for the traffic stop. If they have developed reasonable suspicion to continue their detention of the defendant after they've effectuated the traffic stop, then it's admissible. It's they are allowed to do that, but it has to be a reasonable suspicion that is supported by articulable facts that provide the basis that there is some sort of criminal offense or criminal activity going on, or that there's a threat to officer safety. We were told by Officer Cantu, almost solely by Officer Cantu, that the additional reasonable suspicion he had was not really of any criminal offense or threat to safety in particular, but just things he thought were off. It could indicate some sort of illegal activity or some sort of criminal ongoing crime being committed by Miss Filburn. He was not able to really tie what he saw together to what it actually might have indicated, just that it indicated something might be wrong, I think is what he said repeatedly. And that is not, those are not articulable facts. I would characterize that as more of a hunch, according to how the case law characterizes a hunch. It has to be more than something struck me as off. And I know he said a bit more than that, but he couldn't specify exactly what he saw and how it would have indicated an actual specific offense or kind of offense that he would have reasonable suspicion to continue to detain her after he'd effectuated the traffic stop, to keep her on the scene, to deploy the canine, and then based on the canine to do the search. The detention should have ended. The traffic stop should have ended if they had no further reasonable suspicion to detain her, because there was a reasonable suspicion there's ongoing activity. They were not able to articulate that they had that reasonable suspicion, and they should have cut her loose. The time that she was on the scene, how if the canine was there, if she was under arrest, what they found, how long it took, none of that is relevant at this point. The Supreme Court has made it very clear. It doesn't matter if it's a minute or 20 minutes or 2 hours. If you're reasonable suspicion to keep them there, an actual reasonable suspicion, not just things that you could say that are typical, common language that you might be able to just use to sort of hint that you have reasonable suspicion. but actual things you can list that would indicate that there's something actual tangible going on in addition to the traffic stop. That's all that matters. And if it's 1 minute over when there's reasonable suspicion for what they stopped her, once that ends, it could be 30 seconds or a minute. Once a reasonable suspicion ends for that, they needed to let her go. They shouldn't have run the dog. They should have done the search.
Okay, is that it?
And I'm sorry, yes, that's
Okay.
it.
Okay. Mr. Bryan?
Thank you, Your Honor. The defense has put forward a motion to suppress, citing that the evidence should be suppressed due to a result of the seizure and arrest and the search of the person. And in showing that, the defense in its motion indicates that, one, there was no reasonable suspicion to just seize the defendant. Two, the vehicle and the defendant's person was conducted without a warrant, reasonable suspicion, probable cause, or valid consent. In addition, it indicates that there was no probable cause for the arrest. The defense would have you believe that this seizure of the vehicle, the seizure and arrest of the defendant, and the search of the defendant's person and the vehicle is a violation of its Fourth Amendment rights under the U.S. Constitution, Article 1, Section 9 of the Texas Constitution, or Article 38.23 of the Texas Code of Criminal Procedure, in addition to Chapter 14 of the Texas Code of Criminal Procedure. What we have seen today is that the defense's motion lacks the necessary requisite areas in order to support its motion. And what I mean by that is we've heard testimony today that, one, both Officer Cantu and Officer Cotton indicated that this defendant was not arrested. This defendant was simply detained in the course of a traffic stop that did occur. When you look at the facts that have come in, noting not only the state's exhibit number 8, but the testimony of the officers, both Officer Cantu and Officer Cotton, Officer Cantu indicated that he did have reason in doing a traffic stop, meaning he observed the defendant traveling at a rate of speed that was unreasonable within the state of Texas. At that time, the officer did make an immediate turn. His siren was on as he gave testimony, in addition to say that his lights were on as part of that testimony, in which the defendant kept traveling, albeit roughly about a mile or 60 seconds, if you will, has been part of the testimony put forward today. But you also heard corroborating testimony from Officer Cantu that indicated that there were enough areas and indication for the defendant, for the defendant to know that they were being pulled over. Part of that behavior in which the testimony has come in has indicated that it was a bit erratic. Once they engaged the defendant became very argumentative. Also, part of the testimony that came in today was that the defendant outright lied. There was a question that was asked very specifically by Officer Cantu, and as documented in State's Exhibit A, that specifically asked, do you have anything illegal in the vehicle? The defendant there lied and gave an answer of no. Now, while simply that answer of no is correct, does not necessarily lead to just simply probable cause. What we heard today from the testimony was the behavior in totality of the circumstances, meaning driving at a high rate of speed, refusal to actually stop when giving clear indication that you are being stopped or requested to pull over in violation of a traffic violation under the Transportation Code. In addition, while Officer Cantu indicated that his portion or what he believed was roughly about 15 minutes, that entirety from his engagement, the officer moving around the traffic of the vehicle, him conducting the search, him actually afterwards advising the defendant that she was being given a citation, was roughly, as he testified, 15 minutes. State's motion indicates that the traffic stop actually occurred less than 10 minutes, but even if we took the officer's testimony above what the state has provided in its motion, does a 15-minute stop show reasonableness in that that is enough time for the officers to conduct the traffic stop, the search, the collection of evidence, and writing a traffic citation, which in the state of Texas, under the Health and Safety Code, is a violation. Now, there is the intent here that simply possessing this contraband or illegal activity is not only a Schedule I federal drug, but it also is a violation, as Officer Cantu indicated, a violation of Texas law. When you look at, from a legal argument standpoint, as to whether or not a seizure, if you will, the defendant is justified, yes, the U.S. Supreme Court in Rodriguez v. U.S. Supreme Court, which is a 2015 case, does indicate that it is reasonable for a traffic violation if it justifies a police in their investigation. It goes further on to indicate that here, the defendant was speeding. That violation in and of itself provides justification in addition to probable cause to actually stop the defendant. So would that traffic stop in the behavior of the defendant in speeding would show reasonableness for the officers to actually seize, that way that they can continue conducting their investigation? When you look at the search of the vehicle specifically, and that is where the heart of defense of the defendant or defense counsel argument here over the collection or the actual conduct of the officers in searching the vehicle, it was constitutional. You heard the testimony today that there was reasonable suspicion based on the activities of the defendant, the engagement, the answers of the questions. You also heard that the nature and how the defendant engaged with the officers raised a level of additional suspicion in addition to probable cause. When you look at reasonable suspicion, the definition of reasonable suspicion under not only the Texas Supreme Court, but U.S. Supreme Court indicates is, would a reasonable person in the situation believe that what the conduct that is occurring is reasonable? And what I mean by that is, or what the case law means by that is, a reasonable person in the situation, and in here, would another officer conducting the same type of traffic stop believe that the nature in which the stop occurred was reasonable? I think we find here, based on the state's motion, in addition to the testimony provided today, that reasonable suspicion was what was held here. You also go as to whether or not probable cause existed. At the moment that the officers, their engagement, in addition to the canine unit making a sit, as Officer Cotton testified to, probable cause was therefore established in order to continue conducting the search, because based on the training, the processes, the procedure of not only Officer Cotton as a licensed peace officer in the state of Texas, but also the training and certification of the canine unit name, canine with the identified name of Canine Max. He performed in accordance with those procedures and state statute and regulatory requirements. Yes, the defense argued that should the traffic stop had then occurred once the initial ticket was written. However, the defense overlooks the fact that there was a traffic ticket that was issued for speeding. In the course of one offense, that does not mean it cuts off the investigation of any other violations that maybe occur if there is, again, reasonable suspicion and probable cause, which was testified and established here from the state's position. When you further look at Rodriguez v. United States, the Supreme Court has ruled that officers may conduct unrelated checks to a traffic stop so long as it is done in a manner that does not prolong the stop. Here, there's no prolonging of the stop. There's a continuation of the activities of the officers, but they happen in successive order and in the appropriate successive order to ensure not only safety of the officers, they took into consideration safety and wellness of the defendant in this situation, noting that they are on Highway 29, which is a growing area of traffic within, not only within the city limits, but outside of the city limits, but specifically within the city limits as the traffic speed goes both downward and upward as you transverse through the west side of the city of Bertram through downtown on to the east side as you're heading toward 29 and Highway 183 Polk. The dog sniffing the dog sniff conducted during a coincidentally lawful traffic stop revealed that no other information other than the location of a substance that an individual does not have a right. I want to rephrase that the defendant did not have a right to possess in the first place is not a violation of the defendant's Fourth Amendment rights. Officer Cotton conducted his canine application in accordance with processes, procedures, and certification in state law. I do want to highlight and point out that contrary to defense's assertion, the defendant was briefly detained again. They both testified that the defendant was not arrested, which is the basis of defense's motion that it was illegal and a violation of the defendant's Fourth Amendment right because there was an improper arrest. No arrest ever occurred, and that is demonstrated by the 2 citations that were written and the defendant was let go to appear in court. While it is not at large matter for the court, the state does want to point out in its conclusion that the defense has an obligation to file a timely motion. That motion at the initial setting, which was January the 10th, I do believe, if my memory serves me correctly, came in actually within days within the filing requirement under Section 2 of the Texas Code of Criminal Procedure, specifically Article 28.1, and I quote, "Any such preliminary matters not raised or filed 7 days before the hearing will not thereafter be allowed to be raised or filed, except by permission of the court for good cause shown." I'm not sure that defense has shown good cause as to why her motion came in within that statutory time period. However, Your Honor, you did allow a reset of the actual hearing in order to proceed with today's proceedings. Therefore, based on the reasons that the state has outlined, based on the testimony and the submitted evidence of the state in this evidentiary hearing matter, the state will respectfully request that the defendant's motion to suppress the evidence be denied, as no constitutional rights of the defendant were violated during the lawful seizure and search of the defendant and the defendant's vehicle. Other case law that can be supported by the assertions noted is Illinois v. Calabasas, which is a U.S. case, 2005, in addition to the Texas Code of Criminal Procedure, Article 28.01. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Bryant. Ms. Collins, you've got 3 minutes if you have anything to follow up.
Yes, Judge. And again, because of I have a lot of case law that it goes to all this issue. But since the state wants to talk about Rodriguez, which is one of the most recent cases, then I'll limit it to that. Rodriguez v. U.S. addresses a fact pattern very similar to what we have here, and it's the case that I most base my assertions that the police have an obligation under the law, under the Fourth Amendment, to end a seizure, which I think the state and I both agree that she was seized during the duration of this encounter, that it's a seizure for a traffic violation, which is what we started with, what the initial encounter was based on, what they pulled her over for initially, justifies a police investigation of that violation. It is very much like a Terry stop. It is only done for the purposes of a very limited purpose to address exactly the matter that the police have in mind at the point of doing a Terry, what we call it, a Terry stop on a vehicle. It's you address the traffic violation that warranted the stop, is what the court says, and they draw that from Tobias, which the state also cited. You attend to related safety concerns. They said they did that. You run them for warrants, you check their registration, you check their insurance, things that are incidental to a traffic violation. Make sure we're all safe on the road. Officer safety, that is all reasonable according to the case law. But when they also say, and they draw this from Tobias again, addressing the infraction is the purpose of the stop. And because it's the purpose of the stop, it may last no longer than is necessary to effectuate that purpose. If they want to keep her longer than effectuating the purpose of the stop, they need to have reasonable suspicion that more is going on than just the traffic violation. And yes, they did, Officer Cantu particularly gave us some reasons that he had, that he said indicated that there was possibly more going on here. But
Can
again,
you address the fact that at the time of the stop, Officer Cantu left. He was going about looking at drafting up a citation for speeding when Officer Cotton was present and interacting with the defendant, and his testimony was he was getting indicators at that same time while this traffic stop was still being effectuated, and he was picking up indicators that in his training and experience he was saying were reasonable, detention, because of the fact that he felt that she possibly could be concealing contraband inside the vehicle by her behavior, by her responses to the questions, by her physical actions, including the previous actions of not stopping immediately for almost a mile. How do you address those, though? Because this was all happening at the same time of the traffic stop.
well, I think the testimony actually is not clear on that point, because I think he himself, without looking at his report, testified that it might have been either way. I don't think he said that he was wrong at any point, but I think he admitted that he's not really sure the order of events. And then when he read from his, Officer Cotton read from his offense report, he did agree that it says that before he even had an interaction with Christina, Officer Cantu had written the citation. And that means that really that traffic violation, that had ended. So anything further that develops after the traffic stop is effectuated, it comes to an end, is not go to the required necessary or the reasonable suspicion to continue the detention. So
you think that if the detention was for an additional 3 to 5 minutes, that's an unreasonable amount of time?
It may sound ridiculous, but yes, I do. And I think the Supreme Court has said that too.
Okay. All right. Anything?
And if I could, I'm sorry, Judge.
No.
If I could just also draw the court's attention to his offense report, which he did indicate was a better record of what happened than his memory today. That he said that the Officer Cantu gave her the citation. That's when he informed her that he was going to run the dog, which at that point we know that it's the detention is being attenuated for.
But that was also from his testimony after he stated and testified that he had already interacted with the defendant. During this time, Officer Cantu is clearly off writing the citation before it's completed, and he's interacting with her at the driver's side window, and he is picking up multiple factors is what his testimony was. So, yeah.
And I'm not sure that it was consistent, because I think at some point he said that before he even really interacted with her, and the things that he said were the indicators were really, I think what he said was in response to him telling her that he was going to deploy the dog, which at that point means that they had decided to continue the detention.
Clearly. Okay. All right, well, based on the totality of the evidence presented, the officer's testimony, the offense report, court finds that the motion to suppress of defendant is denied, and that's the ruling of the court after hearing the evidence. So at this point in time, what we'll do next is get a setting for a trial on the case, and we can move forward with the trial.
Can I ask the court for proposed findings, to submit proposed findings of fact and conclusions of law?
Mr. Bryan, do you have any objection or?
The defense request for proposed findings, or it could be mine, proposed finding of fact and conclusions of law.
Right, I think the idea would be that we would both submit them and then the court would, decide or base its own on, our submissions.
Well, I think there's already testimony here, so I mean, as far as an appeal, I think the appellate court's got all the testimony that they need, right?
I would agree, Your Honor, and I would object again if the defense wanted to argue a motion that is appropriate that you have properly set it in based on their request. The defense would have submitted a full motion and brief, thus like the state in its response did.
All right, so I'm not going to submit any findings of fact and conclusions of law because I think we've heard all the evidence in the case, and I'm denying the defense motion based on the evidence heard today from both these officers and the offense report. All right.
And just for the record, I would object to you denying the motion and object to your denial of proposed findings of fact and conclusions of law from the parties.
Okay, and if you want to provide me with some case law where you're entitled to the findings of facts and conclusions of law, then you can submit that to the court. Okay, just have it within 10 days.
All right.
Very good. Okay, that will conclude the hearing for today at 4:22 p.m. on February 8th. And then what we'll do is after you provide me with that within 10 days, if there's something that convinces me to change my mind, that you're entitled to those findings, fact, conclusions of law, then we'll address that. If not, then we'll move on the case to trial by jury.
All right.
Okay. Thank you, counsel.
Thank you, guys.
All right. This concludes this hearing. Thank you.
Thanks, Your Honor.
Thank you.